everyone, it's the Pink Dream, Alex Gracia, and I just wanted to let you know that for all your wrestling news, you need to tune in to Aaron and Tom at the Hot Tag Hooligans Wrestling Podcast Show.
Lord, hear me, I just need some motivation. And I got tired of all these rumors and they hate. I feel my best when I'm worry-free. Mama, don't you worry, ain't nobody hurting me. Yeah, Lord, hear me, I just need some motivation.
Welcome, everybody, to the Hot Tag Hooligans Wrestling Podcast Show. I'm Aaron. That's Tom. Tonight, we thought we'd bring a little bit of an honor to our program. It's Ring of Honor's Ryan Mooney. How's it going, sir?
That's going great. And I saw what you did there. I understood that reference. Very clever on your part. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys and talking about some fun wrestle stuff tonight. So let's do it.
Absolutely. Let's start automatically with wrestling, of course. We'll get into some pop culture a little bit later. But as far as wrestling goes, when you look at the landscape of pro wrestling, and we've said this numerous times on our programming, it always seems like Ring of Honor is the stepchild that no one wanted. And it's weird because they never get the publicity that they rightfully deserve, even though throughout the years, the pipeline of talent that has come through Ring of Honor is exceptional. Dating back from Samoa Joe and the Adam Coes and the CM Punks and the Bryan Danielsons. So for you, how has your experience in Ring of Honor been so far?
I like to refer to Ring of Honor Wrestling as kind of my home away from home. I'm eternally grateful for Ring of Honor in the sense that it helped me kind of develop and expand my love for professional wrestling, first and foremost as a fan. Because I was, like a lot of people, we all grew up watching, I'm sure, the WWE, WWF, going back for some of the older fans. And that was me too, growing up watching WWE. And when I was looking to expand and kind of learn more about other companies that were out there later on in life, when I was, in my teens and then in early 20s, I came across your Impact Wrestlings, your New Japan Pro Wrestlings, and of course your Ring of Honor Wrestlings. And it just so happened that Ring of Honor was on Destination America at the time, which was a channel that I actually had on television. And I started watching the product and I started seeing all of these guys that are now taking the wrestling world by storm. The guys like the Adam Coles, the Roderick Strongs, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, AJ, Jay Lethal, all of those guys. And, I feel bad for even making a list because I just left a million people off that who deserve to be mentioned there. But the point that I'm trying to make is that was something that opened my eyes to a whole new level of wrestling that I had not even been aware of before. And they were coming to the 2300 Arena in Philly that year that I found them on TV. It was 2015. They were coming for their Final Battle pay-per-view at the end of the year. And I told my friend at the time who was really into it, I was like, I think we should go. This is like the first time. It was the first time I'd ever seen a non-WWE wrestling show in person. And we went there and I knew then and there that I was seeing like something that was magical, something that was special, and it was different. And that was what I really enjoyed about it. You could just tell with the atmosphere and the way that the men were wrestling and entertaining on the show that this was different and this was something unique that WWE couldn't replicate. Because they do their own thing and they're good at what they do. But Ring of Honor, there's something special about it that can't be replicated anywhere else. And that's what I loved about it. And then I loved it so much and I kept watching Ring of Honor and I kept going to live shows. And then I said to myself, I think I need to try this. And that was kind of what inspired me to kind of go and try and see what life was like from the other side of the ring.
Yeah, I've been blessed to go to one Ring of Honor show. It was in Carbondale, Illinois, and it was right before, I guess, I always consider wrestling to have like these booms again. And like you're talking about, around 2015, I felt like there was another kind of a boom in wrestling.
Yeah.
And so on that show, Adam Coe, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Cedric Alexander, Kevin Owens were all on this show. And when you look at how quick things change over a 6-year period of time, there are a lot of talents that are constantly moving and weaving their way back and forth. Mike Bennett's one of them. He left to go up to the WWE. He was on that show, and now he's back in Ring of Honor again. So talk to me a little bit about that and the
Mhm.
comings and goings as far as the talent that you've been aware of so far.
Yeah, and the thing that you just pointed out there, that's one of the things that I love about Ring of Honor the most is I don't think it ever gets the potential for it to really become stale or for it to become the law of diminishing returns because it's this constant revolving door of guys and girls now. That's what I love about Ring of Honor too is it's showcasing the women wrestling, and they've put an extreme focus on that with bringing the women's tournament and crowning a new champion back. But what I love about it so much is that it's this platform that guys and girls can come to kind of show what they're capable of doing. And then sometimes, they'll move on and go in a different direction. And that's okay too. But it gives people the opportunity to come and make their mark in the wrestling world. And a lot of people who have never been showcased on that kind of level before. And, you were talking about wrestling boom periods. We're in a huge wrestling boom period right now, just in regards to the amount of content that is available for people to watch out there right now. And me personally, being in the Ring of Honor fold, I felt what it was like for that revolving door climate to be taking place when all of the guys who went to start All Elite Wrestling kind of jumped all at the same time. The SCU and the Young Bucks and Cody, Hangman Adam Page, all those guys leaving all at the same time, it left this huge vacuum in Ring of Honor that needed to be filled. And a lot of people, I think at the time too, were kind of worried that the Ring of Honor product was going to suffer as a result of those people not being there anymore, just because those were some of the biggest stars that were there. And all of a sudden they were gone like the next day. Right. And what I loved about it so much is that it didn't suffer as a result, in my opinion, because we brought another crop of equally talented and some in certain cases equally as hungry men and women into the fold who hadn't been on that platform before and were looking to break out and make a name for themselves. And one of them just became the world champion this week at Best in the World. Bandito was one of the guys that came in as a result of the Bullet Club and the AEW guys leaving. So that was the first time for me where I was like, all right, like this is the way it's going to be. And like guys and girls can leave at any time. And there's going to have to be people here that are willing to step up and try and make it to that next level and fill that void. And it inspired me and Cheeseburger and Eli Isom, who all three of us were teaming together at the time. When we saw everybody leave, we were like, all right, guys, like we're not in a long tenure so far of teaming together. And like Eli and I are not all that experienced as far as being in that Ring of Honor level, but it doesn't matter. Like it's time to sink or swim. We have to be ready because this company needs people to step up, and we're going to try and step up as much as we possibly can too.
So now pro wrestlers, I feel like, hold ROH at a kind of like a pristine wrestling level. Sure, if they're offered a contract from WWE, paying big money, and a lot of people have the dreams of WrestleMania. But I feel like from the wrestling world, it's a, no pun intended, but a huge honor to work in Ring of Honor. So when you first went there, how was that? And did that hit you when you first got there, or is it something that you appreciated over time?
It was, in some cases, both, the answer to that question, because when I was looking for wrestling schools at the time, the Ring of Honor Dojo was a school that kept coming up on my radar as a reputable school that, because what I was doing back then when I was looking for schools was typing in on Google, what are the best wrestling schools to go to in America? And all the lists that I were coming up with, the Ring of Honor Dojo was always a constant remaining factor. It was the constant that was on every single one of those lists, no matter what. And they weren't looking for people, new crops of students at the time. So and it was really unfortunate for me because it was so close to where I lived locally. I mean, how lucky could you get to have such a reputable school basically a stone's throw away from where you live? It just felt like something that was too good to be true. And I was looking at some other schools, and then I found that on their website, they said they were taking their newest crop of students that they hadn't had a crop of students since like 2012. and it was 2016, and they were going to take a new crop of students, and it was going to start training on my birthday that year. And to me, it felt like this is kind of a sign, like the universe. I'm not a superstitious guy by any means, shape, or form, but I sometimes believe that there are things in life that happen that just can't be coincidental. And to me, it felt like all the stars kind of aligning to tell me that this was the right decision to make. Like the Ring of Honor dojo is where you need to be. And when I showed up there, I immediately felt this sense of responsibility to live up to the legacy of the people that had already come through it, not just the students, but the people who had dedicated their time and energy to training people, even before the people that trained me. You know, there's been so many amazing wrestlers and amazingly talented guys who have been the trainers, the head trainers at that school. And I felt like, all right, like I need to make this place proud because I'm going to be representing this school going forward. No matter what it is I do, you know, after I complete training, I'm going to always be representing this school in whatever I do in wrestling. So I have to make sure that, you know, I do the school proud. And that was what I thought about, you know, while it was at the beginning stage. But then when I started getting opportunities very early on to wrestle for Ring of Honor on their television shows and some of their live events, which that was never anything I ever anticipated actually happening. I mean, I went to the Ring of Honor dojo just on a whim because I said to myself, I don't want to wake up years from now and wonder what would have happened if I had just taken the chance on myself and tried this. I never actually expected it to work out the way it did and for it to work out so fast the way it did. So to get those opportunities early on, I once again felt that immense amount of pressure that I was putting on myself to be, yeah, I may be so early on into my tenure in wrestling and I may be a really new guy, just barely finished training, but I'm on TV, I'm on Ring of Honor television, I'm on the Ring of Honor product. I got to do whatever I can to perform at the most elite level I possibly can, given the experience that I'm at. And even now, like even up to current day, like there's so much wrestling out there, and I'm so grateful that there's so much wrestling out there, and there's all these alternative products for all of us to enjoy and love as wrestling fans, people who are passionate about it. But because there's so much wrestling out there, there's a lot of competition. And so every time I go out on the Ring of Honor product now, I'm carrying with me this self-imposed sense of responsibility of, okay, like whatever match that I'm in, I got to try and do my best to make sure that people watch this and people feel like their time was well spent watching the Ring of Honor product as a result of what I'm contributing to it. So it was something that I was instilled in me very early on, and I carry it with me even to this day.
Now, growing up, were you an athlete? Did you compete in anything through your high school career or anything like that to kind of help you out in your training as far as wrestling goes?
So when I was younger and I was in school, I never played any sports directly affiliated with any of the schools that I was attending. And in hindsight, if I had known that I was going to pursue a career in professional wrestling, I probably would have become more active in what my school had offered, like taking amateur wrestling classes and so on and so forth. But conveniently enough, and I do like that this was something I decided to pursue earlier on before I even had the idea in my mind to, oh, I'm going to be a pro wrestler. I did take martial arts and karate lessons outside of what my school offered. So in the community, there was a karate school, a martial arts school. And I went there and, you know, I was a kid who, you know, had a lot of trouble fitting in, had a lot of trouble making friends, you know, a lot of social anxiety going on. And there was a lot of like pent up emotion inside of me that really needed to be let out and processed in a healthy manner. And the martial arts really helped me find a sense of self-confidence and imposed in me a sense of, you know, I can let out the inner, you know, animal inside of myself. It's okay. Like, yes, here we get to scream and we get to be loud and boisterous and we get to, you know, try and, you know, punch things and try and, you know, kick things. And that was really good for me, especially at the time that I was at, where I really needed an outlet like that to kind of steer me in the right direction. And, just like at the Ring of Honor dojo there at that martial arts school, I had great teachers, I had great classmates. It was a great, supportive, productive environment. And the style that we learned was a Korean martial art known as Tang Sudo. It was like an Americanized style of that. So somebody had brought that over from Korea and kind of added stuff to it and made it their own style. And I did that for 7 years until I got my black belt in that. And that actually has come in handy a lot in wrestling so far, because there's a lot of body control techniques and a lot of martial arts, striking techniques, takedowns, some submission holds that I remember from doing that have kind of come in handy and have parlayed themselves well into my training and experience as a wrestler. So it's not something that I had planned to do because I thought it would help me later on for what I'm doing now. But in hindsight, I'm really glad that I decided to do something like that. And it's something that I've always wanted to get back involved in. I'm really interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and what that offers people. I've been to a couple gyms and I've been trying that out as a hobby. And I think I'm going to kind of start pursuing that more as a full-time commitment.
Now, when you decided that you were going to be a pro wrestler, was there a moment of fandom that you can remember that happened where you were like, that's it, that's what I'm going to do? Or was it more of just an overtime building the passion for the pro wrestling business?
Are you asking if there was like a specific moment that kind of told me, like, clicked, like, that's it, we're doing it, like, now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, I would say it was definitely a gradual building up process. I think everybody at a certain time in their life is a fan of professional wrestling. I just think it's something that, especially boys, I think it's just something that they gravitate towards when they're younger, because it's cool. There's, all the theatrics and the really cool characters, but it's also, a violent, sporting kind of event that young kids will probably be able to gravitate towards, and their parents might not stop them from watching it like they would other violent things on television. But a lot of my friends who grew up watching it and enjoying it with me kind of fell out of it. Their passion for it dwindled and they kind of moved on to other stuff. My passion for it never dwindled. If anything, as I learned more about the business and I learned more about went into professional wrestling and all of the different styles and all of the different, products that were available at the time, my passion became even further ignited, and I wanted to just learn as much as I possibly could about it, especially as I started getting into more of the Impacts and the, Ring of Honors and the New Japans, and started learning about all that stuff. I was like, there's wrestling outside of WWE that actually exists. Like, this is amazing. Like, I need to find everything I can possibly find and learn about this. And the moment that I always attribute to it really clicking for me is what we were talking about earlier, when I was sitting in the 2300 arena as a fan watching the Final Battle show. And this is the specific moment that I'll attribute to it as well. That whole show was amazing, top to bottom, and I loved every second of it, because I knew that I was seeing some of the best wrestling on the planet, which is, the tagline that we have in Ring of Honor is the best wrestling on the planet. And I was watching the main event, which was Jay Lethal and AJ Styles. Main event for the Ring of Honor World Championship. And that was, to this day, like one of the greatest matches I have ever seen live, because the energy in that building was just out of this world. It was unreal. And AJ Styles was, for me, and Jay Lethal too, two guys that inspired me a lot when I was growing up watching wrestling, like part of the X Division and TNA, guys that I loved watching every single week on TV. And so to see them having come so far in their careers and watch them just completely tear the house down and blow the roof off 2300 arena, that for me was the moment where I was like, I felt something in my body, like a visceral, like physiological reaction, where I said to myself, I think I can do that. I think I can do that. I've never felt in my life that I was actually born to do anything, or that it was my destiny to do anything. But whenever I was watching wrestling, that was the closest I ever came to having that kind of feeling, where it's like, that's where I belong. That's where I think I can fit in. And that feeling was confirmed for me that night in 2300 arena, when I felt that in my bones, for lack of a better comparison. So that's really the moment that kind of told me, hey, you need to look further into this and you need to at least give this a shot. Otherwise, you might miss out on something special.
Now, when you look outside of wrestling, let's talk about Ryan Mooney. Mm-hmm. What is something Ryan Mooney likes to do outside of pro wrestling? Whether it's watch a specific television show or go somewhere in particular, what do you like to do?
Yes, so that's a very interesting question, and something that I think is really important to note is that we've obviously for the past year and a half been going through this COVID-19 pandemic, right? Where this kind of fast-paced lifestyle that we were all living before that, the go, can't stop to smell the roses kind of life that we were all living, we had to kind of slow down and kind of take some downtime and think about stuff. And it gives you a lot of time to reflect, right? And for me, it gave me a lot of time to think about, what are some of the other things in my life that I enjoy doing that help me feel satisfied and help me feel fulfilled? Because, honestly, to be fully transparent, one of the times in life where I was kind of at my most like down and kind of in that negative headspace was when I made my entire life just about professional wrestling. Because that became very overwhelming, and that can lead to a lot of feelings of disappointment and like, oh, like, am I succeeding the way I want to, or am I doing enough? Or you worry about all that stuff and you get trapped in that negative headspace. So throughout that COVID-19 pandemic, when we were all put on ice, I really had to think about it a lot. And I ended up reconnecting with a lot of stuff that I had kind of let fall by the wayside because I thought professional wrestling was the only thing that mattered. So I've been able to reconnect with hobbies that I really enjoy over the course of this past year, such as reading. I'm a very avid reader. I'm huge into comic books and graphic novels. I think that that's one of the most valuable art forms that I've ever come across in my life, along with video games, of course, too, because I think that the immersion that provides is also something that you can't replicate on a TV show. You can't replicate that on a movie, right? So I reconnected with stuff like that. I started spending more time outside, going on walks, going on hikes, going bike riding. Being outside in nature is something that's really important to me. I feel like that really manifests feelings of positivity and really gets me in that headspace where I'm able to think about what I'm grateful for in my life and all the good things that I have. As human beings, sometimes I think we tend to think about, if 10 things happen to us over the course of a day and 9 of them are positive and 1 is negative, we tend to kind of focus on that one negative thing, right? But, getting in touch with these things that I like doing and taking up new skills that I've been doing, like I've been trying to practice guitar, and I've been taking guitar lessons to try and learn that, because 7 years ago for Christmas, I told my mom I wanted a guitar, and she was like, all right, are you going to actually try and do this? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to try and do it. So I bought this whole self-teach yourself guitar thing. It was for a video game on the Xbox. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to self-teach myself how to play guitar. And then I did it. And I was like, man, this is really hard and really frustrating. So I stopped because I didn't have the self-discipline enough to make myself do that. And I just decided this year, I was like, I have this guitar just over here in my house and it's just collecting dust. And I was like, somebody needs to learn how to play that. And I don't think it's going to be anybody else. So I'll do it. So I took it to the nearest place that was actually teaching, people how to play near my house. And I've been doing that for the past few months and like learning about chords and learning. I'm actually trying to learn the first song on the guitar right now, which is Polly by Nirvana, which is one of my favorite bands. So it tells you a little bit about my music preference. But yeah, man, that's kind of the stuff that I'm really into now. I love movies. I love television just like anybody else. But for me right now, it's all about kind of reading, novels, comic books, guitar playing, maybe jujitsu or some other form of martial arts, because I'm a very physical person and I really find myself being fulfilled when I'm doing something active and physical. That's why I think I love the outside and the exercise so much. But that's the kind of stuff that, I'm really involved in right now. And that's kind of a little bit a window into kind of who I am when I'm not getting beaten up in the middle of a ring. I'm also in school right now too, finishing up my master's degree. So that's kind of been something that has been a real passion project for me, that I'm so close to finishing that, and I'm really happy that I've been able to stick it out for this long. That's why I was saying earlier that I'm so familiar with Zoom, because I've had to do it for a year and a half. So hopefully in September we won't be doing that anymore, but we'll see.
Have you seen Black Widow yet?
I have not seen Black Widow yet. Have both of you seen Black Widow?
Well,
Yes.
I have. I was hoping you had seen it because, okay, this is no spoilers at all. Tom thinks Black Widow is better than Endgame.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, I don't think it's that good. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. But I was okay. So when you finally watch it, I want you to email me.
Okay.
And I want to know what you think, because, again, it's a very good movie. And I think right now, any movie we go and watch, we're going to be like, man, that was a good movie, because we're back at the theater. I think there's a lot of that aspect of it right now. Like, as unbelievable as Fast and the Furious new one was, I was like, this is so great to be back at the theater right now. This is great,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's a good point that you brought up there, is the fact that, there might be some kind of bias for at least for the little while, because I think we're going to be in this honeymoon period coming back into theaters where it may not necessarily even matter what the quality of a movie is. Now, I expect a certain level of quality from any MCU film just based on the track record that they've shown up to this point. But my overall point is that I think that no matter what we see in the theater right now, we might be more inclined to favor it and have a positive review of it, just because we're so happy to be back doing the things that we love doing that we weren't able to do for the past year and a half, right? So I haven't seen Black Widow personally, but I have to say, now that, it's the first Marvel movie to be on a screen, not counting any of that Disney Plus stuff, since Endgame, right, in 2019, which feels like it was 10 years ago. But I am really looking forward to seeing Black Widow. I think that, for one, she's a great character, and I really loved to see, in hindsight, the progression of her character through all the films and how it culminated in her story arc in Endgame. No spoilers for Endgame. I'm sure, if you're still waiting to see it after 2 years, I won't ruin it for you. But I'm really looking forward to getting to know who was Black Widow, kind of before we saw her in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, what was her life like before that? So I think that was a really good choice for them to make a movie, because I think after Endgame, a lot of people were interested in, like, we want more Black Widow content. And they were like, all right, well, we have to do something, because, we're kind of in a tough corner here based on the decisions that we've made in Endgame. But I'm super excited to see it. And I believe Spider-Man at the end of this year, right?
It's going to be rocking and rolling real soon. I mean, let's be honest. Black Widow was supposed to come out like over a year ago, so they're a little bit behind. So some of these are kind of ready to roll out, especially with Disney Plus. A lot of those series are really good, and this kind of flows in with some of the Disney Plus stuff too. So if you haven't watched that, make sure you check out some of those as well.
All right. Well, everybody who ends up watching this, send me money on PayPal so I can afford Disney Plus. There you go.
There you go. Well, Ryan, before we let you go, tell everyone where they can find you on social media and where you'll be competing at next.
Yeah, so absolutely. So you can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Mooney, ROH, the letters just capital R, capital O, capital H. And, you can, if you want to, you can look up all the stuff that I've done recently. I've had some Ring of Honor matches go up on their YouTube show week by week, as well as a promo that I cut just went up on their social media accounts this past week. I'm still being pressured and hassled by a lot of my friends in the wrestling biz, as it were, to get Instagram. They're all trying to peer pressure me into doing it. So I currently don't have an Instagram, but that's probably going to be the next thing that people end up kind of I'm going to end up breaking eventually and getting an Instagram. So eventually I'll end up plugging that. But for now, follow me when you're looking for anything I'm doing wrestling related on Twitter, Ryan Mooney, ROH. And I'm super excited because Ring of Honor is coming back to 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, August 20th and August 21st. It's really our first foray back into running with live crowds outside of Best in the World this past weekend. And as we talked about, 2,300 arena, big venue for me, has a lot of history with me, a lot of wrestling history, rich history embedded in it in general. And I'm super excited to be back there. And I will be back in Philly August 21st. So please come out and please support Ring of Honor, because it's the best wrestling on the planet and is the place that I love and I call home.
Well, Ryan, definitely enjoyed this interview. Definitely would love to have you come back here sometime soon. I think your knowledge of the business is very well represented, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for you.
Yes, I would absolutely love to come back. It was so nice to meet both of you. And if I had known that we had such limited time, I wouldn't have been talking so much. You guys
you're good.
You guys got to cut me off and tell me to shut up so that we can actually cover more ground. But I think the fact that we weren't able to cover as much stuff means that we got to come back and have another convo, maybe after I've seen Black Widow, right? So we could talk about that. But yeah, definitely, guys, thank you so much for having me. It was lovely to meet both of you. And I really hope that we can do this again and we can talk about some more stuff together.
Absolutely. For everybody out there, make sure you all hit the subscribe button when you watch this. We appreciate all the subscriptions that continuously go up each and every single week. Can't do it without you all. Make sure you also go over to Pro Wrestling Tees, get yourself some of our merchandise. No sale this week as far as I know over there, but if you can, support all the talent as they release new individual shirts as well and merchandise. And if you have not yet, please pick up a copy of my book. It's right here.
You have a book?
Independent Road. We'll talk about it off air here, Ryan. Independent Road, A Wrestler's Journey. Sales continuously climb on that one. We're going to get back on that bestsellers list again. We're going to get back there real soon. And we'll do it with y'all's support as well. We appreciate everyone out there. And we will see y'all later in the week.